You haven't seen the paperwork. He could be telling you that just to be telling you that on camera.
Right.
You know, he about to set up 100 mother. You know, that's how that go, man. You stay solid. Some of us gonna make it, some of us ain't. That's just how it gonna be.
I hope I don't upset you, Tekashi, but what does it feel to be the richest rat in the world?
I mean, it feels pretty good. I mean, I put a lot of bad people away. I saved the world. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I saved, I'm like Batman at this point, you know what I'm trying to say?
So what is your advice to all these young kids out there that are trying to be gangsters?
Just do what I did. I mean, you be good. You make millions of dollars.
That federal agents arrested and flipped twin brothers from Chicago's Little Village neighborhood. Pedro and Margarito Flores were El Chapo's biggest distributors here in the Midwest. They used stash houses in the suburbs and modified vehicles to keep the pipeline of drugs flowing from Mexico to Chicago.
Rick Worshie Jr., white boy Rick, made history, recruited by law enforcement to be an informant at the age of 14, and later to become the youngest nonviolent offender to serve more than 30 years behind bars.
In the gritty underworld of crime, betrayal by informants often marks the ultimate turning point in the lives of many gangsters. The decision to cooperate with law enforcement can dismantle entire criminal empires, as seen in the stories of several high-profile informants. From the infamous Flores Twins, who played a crucial role in bringing down El Chapo, to the shocking revelations of Rene "Boxer" Enriquez, a former high-ranking member of the Mexican Mafia. These individuals' decisions to turn informant have had profound impacts on their communities and the criminal organizations they once served. This compilation explores the dramatic tales of 5 notorious gangsters turned informants: the Flores Twins, Terrence "Gangsta" Williams, Tekashi 6ix9ine, White Boy Rick, and Rene "Boxer" Enriquez.
This individual, say he's from Bell Gardens, say he's from Montebello. A Mexican Mafia member will contact him and say, who are the connections in your neighborhood? Can you contact them for me? And tell them that you're my representative here and that you want to establish a conduit between me and them. And they'll be utilized that way. And we'll re-infiltrate that community and have even a stronger hold than when you took the youngster out. So all you're doing is you're immersing that kid into a world where there's no regression. I mean, he can't go back. Once he's involved with the Mexican Mafia, it's in for a penny, in for a pound. You can't get in and say, I don't want to play no more. The structure of the Mexican Mafia is comprised of 3 components. The members. There are about 100 members in the United States, including the federal prisons, Arizona state prisons, California state prisons, and members in society. It's a small group, but it's very powerful. The members believe in a contractionary philosophy. Fewer members, bigger pieces of the pie. That's why there's so few numbers. There are also the camaradas who are next to the defending rung of in the organization. They comprise the crews, mess, and in prison. Every Sureño throughout the United States understands what the Black Hand is. Every rival of the organization knows what the Black Hand represents. Even the Hispanic communities, and a large part in California and the Southwest, understand what the Black Hand means. This has become ingrained in the lore of the prison subculture, Hispanic gang subculture, and mainstream community. This is our one identifying symbol. It's typically the left hand that's pointed outwards in a tattoo, or a left handprint. It may appear to be the right.
Rene "Boxer" Enriquez was a high-ranking member of the Mexican Mafia, also known as Aceman, a notorious prison gang that extended its influence to street gangs across California. Born on July 7, 1962, in Artesia, California, Enriquez's life took a criminal turn early on, leading him to commit a series of armed robberies by his late teens. At 19, he was introduced to the Mexican Mafia while imprisoned at the Duel Vocational Institution. where he quickly rose through the ranks due to his ruthless efficiency as a hitman. By 1985, Enriquez had become a fully fledged member of Rene, helping to shape the gang into a highly organized and powerful entity. The Mexican Mafia exerted control over various criminal activities, including drug trafficking, extortion, and protection rackets, with Enriquez playing a crucial role in enforcing and expanding the gang's influence. However, the intense violence, internal power struggles, and arbitrary targeting of families led Enriquez to become disillusioned with the gang. In 2002, after nearly a decade in solitary confinement, Enriquez decided to leave the Mexican Mafia and offered to cooperate with law enforcement. His defection was a significant blow to Rene, as Enriquez provided detailed insights into the gang's operations, organizational structure, and key members. He assisted the FBI and other agencies by decoding messages, participating in wiretaps, and testifying in numerous trials, contributing to the conviction of many gang members. Enriquez's cooperation with law enforcement earned him both powerful enemies and support from federal and state agencies. Despite his contributions, his requests for parole were repeatedly denied due to the high security risks associated with his release. California Governors Jerry Brown and Gavin Newsom both blocked his parole on multiple occasions, citing concerns for his safety and the community's security. Finally, in July 2022, Enriquez was granted parole. His transformation from a top-tier gang leader to a government informant has been extensively documented, including in Chris Blatchford's book, The Black Hand, which details his rise and eventual cooperation with authorities. Enriquez's story highlights the complexities of gang life, the challenges of leaving such an organization, and the significant impact a high-profile informant can have on criminal networks.
We have seen the incredible and captivating story in the media, bone-chilling documentaries, and even on the Hollywood big screen. The drugs, the murders, police corruption, political scandals, and even the affairs. Rick Wershey Jr., White Boy Rick, made history, recruited by law enforcement to be an informant at the age of 14, and later to become the youngest nonviolent offender to serve more than 30 years behind bars. A $100 million lawsuit has been filed on allegations of child abuse.
I didn't feel hurt about him, or I didn't say, oh, glad he got that, or anything like that, if that's where you want to put it. No, I wasn't happy about nobody getting no time. I felt that actually, if you want to put it on anybody, it should have been the feds. They the one went to a young kid, 15 years old.
I was hired to kill Wershey Jr., better known as White Boy Rick.
Kraft has admitted to killing over 30 people, some friends, some enemies, most strangers.
It was business, you have to understand. These people was into illegal things anyway, so I don't feel bad doing something to somebody that is in their lifestyle.
It's emotional standing here. You know, it's been 34 years since I had a birthday free. So to stand here in front of my store, this, you know, it's tough. A lot goes through my mind, Josh. You know, the last time I was at this building, my father was still here. He was still alive. My dad's no longer with me. So, you know, that's an emotional thing.
Mac's Barbershop used to be Rick's Video Palace, where Wershey also celebrated his last birthday before going to prison. Everybody knows about the video store, huh?
Bro, this was famous, bro. Listen, I opened it up as like a front or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But we were so popular that it became a money-making business.
Rick Wershey shared stories of how he and his friends would hang out at the corner of Mogul and Hayes and party late into
news involving the infamous drug dealer known as White Boy Rick. We've learned he's been arrested in Florida. Rick Wershey Jr. is charged with robbery and battery, accused of attacking his girlfriend. Now, police allege the pair got into some kind of an argument over sex when Wershey grabbed her jewelry and punched her. He was given a $1,500 bond. Wershey became a federal informant when he was 14 years old and helped.
Richard Wersh Jr., widely known as White Boy Rick, became an FBI informant at the incredibly young age of 14, making him the youngest informant in the FBI's history. Growing up on the east side of Detroit during the 1980s, Wersch was introduced to the world of crime by his father, who was also an FBI informant. The FBI recruited Wersch to infiltrate a violent drug gang, leveraging his youthful appearance to gather critical information. Wersch's contributions were significant. He helped the FBI secure numerous convictions, including those of key members of the Curry drug gang. His work also exposed deep-seated corruption within the Detroit Police Department and implicated several high-profile figures, including Detroit Mayor Coleman Young and police official Gil Hill, though they were never charged. Despite his invaluable assistance to law enforcement, Wersch's life took a drastic turn when, at the age of 17, he was arrested for possessing over 8 kilograms of under Michigan's strict 650 lifer law. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, a punishment many saw as excessively harsh given his age and cooperation with authorities. While incarcerated, Wersch continued to assist the FBI, helping to dismantle a major corruption ring within the Detroit Police Department. His continued cooperation earned him both powerful enemies and the label of a stool pigeon by some, including Mayor Young. Wersch's sentence remained a point of contention for many years. Despite the 650 lifer law being overturned in 1998, Wersch was repeatedly denied parole. It wasn't until 2017 that he was finally granted parole from Michigan, only to be immediately transferred to Florida to serve additional time for his involvement in a car theft ring while in prison. Wersch was released from Florida custody in July 2020. In 2021, he filed a lawsuit against the FBI, claiming that their actions amounted to child abuse and arguing that he would never have become involved in drug gangs or criminal activities had it not been for his role as an informant. Wersch's story has been the subject of significant media attention, including the 2018 film White Boy Rick and the documentary White Boy, highlighting the complexities and consequences of his life as a teenage informant.
I hope I don't upset you, Tekashi, but what does it feel to be the richest rat in the world?
I mean, it feels pretty good. I mean, I put a lot of bad people away. I saved the world. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm like Batman at this point, you know what I'm trying to say?
So what is your advice to all these young kids out there that are trying to be gangsters?
Just do what I did. I mean, you be good. You make millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying?
Kidnap me, beat the shit out of me on video and everything? I'm supposed to be loyal to that? No, you know what? You know what it is? Y'all don't want to accept the fact that those is all true facts. Y'all don't want to y'all understand why I snitch. Y'all understand. Y'all don't want to understand. It's not that y'all don't understand. Y'all don't want to understand. Y'all don't want to understand that, damn, this kid really was, he moved their families out of poverty. He paid for schools for all of the members, whatever, but he snitched on them. Why? Were they loyal to me? Because when I met Son, he was sleeping on the rug. I give him money. Yo, look, listen, I'm a rainbow Mexican hair kid. I rap. I'm not about that gang shit, but listen, I know how to get us out.
Let me ask you something. What's the definition of a snitch?
In this case, the definition: who rats out people that they were tight with, rats them out to law enforcement.
What's loyalty to you, Charles?
Loyalty would be that you don't snitch on the people closest on your friends.
If another TMZ staff member kidnaps you, is that loyal to you? You're working right now. If Harvey's stealing all of the money that you're making right now and gives you crumbs of it, but is taking majority of the money, is that loyal to you? These are my people. What I did, it wasn't snitching. What I did was being smart and realize that God put me there to cut my grass so I could see the snakes in my grass. Put this in perspective and really follow me here. Imagine I would have stood tall, right? Kept it real, did the 47 years right now. Right?
Well, you wouldn't be on the podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get to. Who would be here right now?
Daniel Hernandez, known by his stage name Tekashi 6ix9ine, became widely known not only for his music, but also for his role as an informant in a high-profile federal case against the Nine Trey Gangsta Bloods, a violent street gang. 6ix9ine's involvement with Nine Trey began as his music career took off, with the gang providing protection and street credibility in exchange for financial support. This relationship, however, led to his entanglement in serious criminal activities, including racketeering, drug trafficking, and violent crimes. In 2018, 6ix9ine was arrested on multiple charges, facing potentially decades in prison. Faced with these severe consequences, Tekashi chose to cooperate with federal authorities. His cooperation included testifying against several Nine Trey members, providing detailed information about the gang's operations, and implicating numerous associates in various crimes. This testimony was pivotal in securing convictions for many high-ranking members of the gang. His detailed accounts and willingness to turn informant were critical in the prosecution's case, leading to significant prison sentences for those involved. 6ix9ine's decision to cooperate was highly controversial, especially within the hip-hop community, where such actions are often viewed as betrayal. Despite the backlash, his cooperation substantially reduced his own sentence. Initially facing a mandatory minimum of 47 years in prison, his sentence was reduced to just 2 years, with credit for time served. Following his release, 6ix9ine continues to be a polarizing figure, balancing his music career while dealing with the repercussions of his past actions and the ever-present threats from those he testified against. His story is a striking example of the complexities and dangers associated with the criminal justice system and gang affiliations.
Oh, and I also gave him some murders with Sterling and Dooney. So some of my people that I'm at odds with now, even BG was upset about it too, because they was like, man, you know, you tell it on the dead. You know, I didn't look at it like at the time. I was like, well, you know, this is a way I can get up out of prison. You know, I'm not testifying on no one. You know, I'm gonna give them this here. They're gonna cut my time. Cool. You know.
Dead to a real. Everything he did in the game don't even count. Just talking about he ratting on the dead. I ain't dead. Lab ain't dead. Good morning, world. Let me chill out.
Brother, what's the relationship with Gangsta today? And what's y'all relation? How y'all kin?
8-5, he speak up on it himself. I held blood down. And, you know, we got it in early on. You hear me? That HB shit come from 5. You hear me? And Weasel. Weasel, my brother.
You haven't seen the paperwork. He could be telling you that just to be telling you that on camera.
Right.
You know, he about to set up 100. You know, that's how it go, man. You stay solid. Some of us gonna make it, some of us ain't. That's just how it gonna be. You can take that gangster shit off your name, man. Real shit, man. That shit hurt me when I heard about that shit. You know, cause you know how all that city stand up for gangster in Angola. In that city, they stand up behind that. When I say Lee Luke, when I rep Baton Rouge and all, they want to come up, putting down and stand solid and put in work in the streets, they say gangster. That's one of the good names they say. And
Terrence Gangsta Williams, the half-brother of Cash Money Records co-founders Brian Birdman Williams and Ronald Slim Williams, is a notable figure in the criminal underworld and hip-hop community. He was a member of the notorious Hot Boys gang, which later inspired the name of the famous rap group featuring Lil Wayne, Juvenile, Turk, and BG. In the late 1990s, Williams was involved in significant criminal activities, including drug trafficking and plotting murders. He was caught by the FBI through wiretaps while planning to kill rival drug dealers and shipping through the mail. In 1998, he pleaded guilty to engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise and solicitation for murder, resulting in a life sentence plus 20 years. However, in January 2022, Williams was unexpectedly released from prison after serving more than 20 years. His release was reportedly due to his cooperation with federal authorities. Court records indicate that Williams provided substantial assistance to law enforcement. Williams' cooperation and subsequent release have been controversial, especially within the street and hip-hop communities. He has openly discussed his past and the circumstances surrounding his cooperation in interviews, acknowledging the enemies he has made due to his involvement in criminal activities and his decision to become an informant.
Through his work with the Drug Enforcement Administration, it was on Riley's watch that federal agents arrested and flipped twin brothers from Chicago's Little Village neighborhood. Pedro and Margarito Flores were El Chapo's biggest distributors here in the Midwest. They used stash houses in the suburbs and modified vehicles to keep the pipeline of drugs flowing from Mexico to Chicago. At trial, Pedro Flores testified he and his brother visited El Chapo in a remote area of Mexico where they saw a naked dead man chained to a tree, a reminder that those who cross the cartel rarely live to talk about it.
Certainly, the Flores brothers cooperating and providing all the information.
El Chapo was convicted by a New York jury, but the work of authorities here in Chicago was central to the case. As the I-Team first reported more than a year ago, prosecutors had a star witness from Chicago in their arsenal. Hailing from Little Village, the Flores twins were precocious and prolific, learning the cocaine trade at age 7, and by 17 overseeing the Chicago franchise of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman's criminal operation. But a decade ago, the brothers flipped, their cooperation with the government helping take down one of history's most notorious criminals.
They came to our NBC studios in disguise with security, Olivia and Mia Flores telling their story for the first time.
We need security because we are being hunted by the Mexican cartel.
Their husbands, twin brothers, and American citizens became informants for the U.S. government while working in Mexico for the powerful drug lord known as El Chapo. Pedro and Margarita Flores ended up back in the U.S., where they pleaded guilty in 2015 to drug trafficking, receiving a 14-year prison term. Their wives went into hiding.
I feel like we've always lived with danger, being in Mexico, and of course our husbands being fugitive.
You were well aware that your husbands were involved in the cartel.
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
I mean, at the time, you know, you're living that life and you're blinded by pretty much everything.
The Flores brothers are Chicago's most notorious twins, raking in millions as El Chapo's emissaries here before they flipped on the boss and took him down. Tonight, new court records reveal that their joint account amounted to cash deposited under the floorboards of a house, more than $5 million in cash that their wives are now accused of pilfering. These are the Flores wives, Mia on the left and Olivia seen right, obviously not in witness protection, as are their husbands. The Flores wives appearing on this national TV show American Greed last year, talking about El Chapo's Sinaloa cartel.
The streets of Chicago.
For years, they and their husbands appeared to live normally here in Chicago's Little Village, all the while saying the husbands were making $10 million per month. And now, as Pedro and Margarito Flores have reportedly ended their prison time, Mia and Olivia are fighting to make sure they don't go to prison, as both wives face money laundering charges here at the federal courthouse in Chicago. Judy, money laundering charges march on tonight against Chicago's wives of the cartel. Mia and Olivia Flores are married to drug mob twin brothers Pedro and Margarito Flores. The wives have been claiming they were exempt from criminal charges because prosecutors, they say, had given them immunity. Tonight, a federal judge says no free pass for the cartel wives.
I'm not aware of any immunity that provides blanket protection against future crimes and future misconduct. It's just not the way the system works.
The Flores twins, Pedro and Margarito Flores, are known for their critical role as informants who helped bring down the infamous drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Originally from Chicago, the twins built a massive drug trafficking empire, distributing cocaine across the United States through connections with the Sinaloa cartel and other drug trafficking organizations. Their operation was extensive, handling an average of 1,500 to 2,000 kilograms per month, which generated approximately $2 billion in revenue. The twins operated primarily out of Chicago, but extended their reach to other major cities, including New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. In 2008, facing the immense risks of their criminal lifestyle and the danger posed by their cartel associations, the Flores twins decided to cooperate with U.S. law enforcement. Their cooperation included recording conversations with top cartel leaders, including El Chapo himself. This brave decision led to significant indictments against key figures in the Sinaloa cartel and the dismantling of the twin-owned drug distribution network. As a result of their cooperation, the twins provided valuable intelligence that led to numerous drug seizures and the arrest of high-level traffickers. Their testimony was pivotal in the eventual conviction of El Chapo, one of the most powerful and dangerous drug lords in the world. Despite their cooperation, the Flores brothers were sentenced to 14 years in prison due to the extensive damage their drug operations caused in Chicago and beyond. They forfeited millions of dollars in assets and remain under threat from the cartel for their betrayal. Their story has been extensively covered in various media, including the podcast Surviving El Chapo, The Twins Who Brought Down a Drug Lord, which details their rise in the drug trade, their decision to turn informant, and the impact on their lives and families. The Flores twins' cooperation has had a lasting impact on the fight against drug trafficking, demonstrating the significant effects informants can have in dismantling powerful criminal organizations. The stories of these gangsters turned informants underscore the complex and often perilous journey from crime to cooperation with law enforcement. Each narrative reveals not only the inner workings and influence of powerful criminal organizations, but also the personal costs and ongoing threats faced by those who choose to betray their former allies. From the dismantling of drug empires to exposing deep-seated corruption, these informants have played pivotal roles in law enforcement efforts, often at great personal risk. Their tales serve as a stark reminder of the harsh realities of gang life and the profound consequences of turning informant, reshaping the criminal landscape in significant ways.
The people he informed on were his former drug colleagues and his women. How did he feel testifying against them?
I was overwhelmed by guilt. I was overwhelmed by guilt. I had every reason to testify against them and no reason at all to feel guilty. But it's that street corner indoctrination.
Yeah. It was like sending him to grad school for drug dealers. Inside the prison, Edmond shared a cell with two men with Colombian connections. In 1996, Rayful Edmond was convicted again, this time for conducting his drug business from a prison phone. He got another 30 years for that, and sometimes afterwards he agreed to turn government witness. He became a snitch. In exchange,
it was Alpo, but his driver's license and other IDs had his witness protection name of Abraham Rodriguez with a Lewiston, Maine address. The murder scene stretched for blocks up to 151st Street. Alpo had been given a new identity when he was released from a Colorado Supermax prison in 2015.
Welcome to our exploration of the infamous lives of 5 notorious figures who dominated the drug trade in America, only to become some of the most infamous informants in history. Today, we delve into the stories of Nathaniel "Nate" Kraft, a ruthless hitman from Detroit, Alpo Martinez, a drug lord from Harlem, Leroy "Nikki" Barnes, the Mr. Untouchable of Harlem, Frank Lucas, the kingpin who revolutionized trafficking, and Rayful Edmond, who introduced to Washington, D.C. Discover how these powerful criminals transitioned from feared figures to crucial informants, ultimately reshaping the criminal landscape they once ruled.
I want you to admit it. Okay. Is the game still the same? No. Okay, now, before you went and did your thing, did we not have 100 conversations? I said you gotta be careful. And what'd you say?
Man, I ain't trying to hear that. What you telling me?
Stay out of my business. Who you think you're talking to?
Legend himself is in the building. Oh, I love that movie. Number one. Yes. Alpo Martinez. Underworld is in the building. Harlem. Don't Harlem. All right. West side. West side.
He was one of the city's most notorious drug dealers, famous since the 1980s for his murderous ways and mountains of cash and drugs, immortalized in dozens of rap songs and the movie Paid in Full. But it all came to an end for Alpo Martinez right here on the streets of Harlem, right where it all began. These are exclusive photos of Alpo Martinez on previous visits to Harlem in recent years. But his latest visit turned out to be his last. On Sunday, about 3:20 a.m., police were called to Frederick Douglass Boulevard near West 147th Street. A dark red pickup truck crashed into parked cars. The driver was shot 5 times in the chest through the car window and killed. Alpo had been given a new identity when he was released from a Colorado Supermax prison in 2015 after serving more than 20 years for 14 murders. But instead of lying low, he couldn't seem to stay away from New York.
He's been seen riding around Harlem most of the time. You know, he's been seen down in Harlem a lot.
In addition to the murder convictions, Alpo was widely believed to have turned on many of his former associates in order to shave years off what could have been a life sentence. There is no shortage of people who may have wanted payback.
Police have arrested the man they say murdered former Harlem drug lord Albert Alpo Martinez. Cops arrested Shaquem Parker. He's 27 years old. He was already being held on Rikers Island in a gun case. Police say he also has priors for burglary, robbery, and drug possession.
Albert Alpo Martinez was a notorious drug dealer from Harlem who later expanded his operations to Washington, D.C., becoming a significant figure in the drug trade during the 1980s and early 1990s. His rise to power was characterized by his strategic partnerships with other notable drug dealers, including A.Z., Faison, and Rich Porter. Martinez's operations were marked by violence and ruthlessness, which helped him maintain control over his territories. In 1991, Martinez was arrested in Washington, D.C. on charges including drug trafficking and involvement in 14 murders. Facing the possibility of the death penalty or life imprisonment without parole, he decided to cooperate with law enforcement. Martinez's cooperation was extensive and led to the conviction of numerous associates, including his former bodyguard and enforcer, Wayne Silk Perry, who received multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. Martinez's testimony significantly disrupted trade in Washington, D.C. After serving about 25 years in prison, Martinez was released in 2015 and entered the Federal Witness Protection Program under the alias Abraham G. Rodriguez. He relocated to Lewiston, Maine, where he attempted to start a new life, even founding a construction company. Despite his efforts to maintain a low profile, Martinez frequently returned to Harlem, which ultimately led to his downfall. On October 31, 2021, Martinez was shot and killed in Harlem in what was initially thought to be a revenge killing by former associates or rivals. However, it was later revealed that his death was the result of a road rage incident. Martinez's return to his old haunts and his inability to completely sever ties with his past life ultimately led to his demise. Martinez's life and criminal career have been depicted in various media, most notably in the 2002 film Paid in Full, where his character was portrayed by rapper and actor Cameron. His story remains a testament to the dangerous and often short-lived nature of the drug trade and the complex legacy left by those who turn informant.
So when it come my time to say what was for real and what wasn't for real, what wasn't real, I told it on them. I told them if you saw the movie, then you know to ask me if I told you, you'll see what I did. I got them back. But good, you know.
And these were corrupt cops, right?
They were taking my money and I was selling dope for them, so you can call them what you want.
Frank Lucas was a notorious drug kingpin in Harlem during the 1960s and 1970s, renowned for his role in establishing a highly efficient trafficking operation. Lucas claimed to have bypassed the traditional mafia-controlled supply chain by purchasing directly from Southeast Asia, smuggling it into the United States via coffins of deceased American soldiers, a claim that remains disputed. In January 1975, Lucas's home in Teaneck, New Jersey, was raided by a task force comprising DEA agents and NYPD detectives. Authorities seized over $500,000 in cash, although Lucas claimed the actual amount was much higher. He was subsequently convicted of federal and state drug violations and sentenced to 70 years in prison. After his conviction, Lucas decided to cooperate with law enforcement. Lucas provided valuable information that led to the arrest and conviction of some family members and individuals involved in drug trafficking and corruption within law enforcement. Due to his cooperation, Lucas's 70-year sentence was reduced to time served after he spent 5 years in custody. However, in 1984, he was arrested again for attempting to exchange and served another 7 years in prison. Upon his release in 1991, Lucas lived relatively quietly, though he continued to face legal issues, including a 2012 guilty plea for attempting to cash a federal disability benefit check twice. Frank Lucas's life story gained widespread attention through the 2007 film American Gangster, starring Denzel Washington. The film dramatized his rise and fall, though many aspects of the story were fictionalized for dramatic effect. Despite the Hollywood embellishments, the film brought renewed scrutiny and interest to Lucas's real-life impact on the drug trade and law enforcement in New York City. Lucas's story remains a compelling example of the complex interplay between crime and law enforcement, highlighting both his significant role in drug trafficking and his eventual cooperation with authorities.
The gang, allegedly led by 24-year-old Rayful Edmond, reportedly sold 1,700 pounds of a month, bought directly from the notorious Crips gang in Los Angeles. Police say the Edmond organization enforced its will with violence. As many as 30 murders.
It takes a lot of guts to get up on the witness stand and testify against someone who is alleged to be as violent and as dangerous as Rayful Edmonds and his group.
In fact, the house of the family of one witness was firebombed after her testimony. Another key witness has refused to testify. Jurors are under 24-hour guard. Their names are kept secret. The whole trial is conducted behind bulletproof glass. Money, the government says drug money, has turned Rayful Edmond and his family into celebrities. His grandmother is tracked by camera crews as she attends the trial in a different ensemble each day. She's not charged in the case, although she owned the house that was allegedly used as gang headquarters.
I'm gonna break one of those cameras.
Money gave Edmond a flashy lifestyle, and money may have also bought the police.
Now, Edmond got an additional 30 years for his crimes in prison. So why do the feds now think he should be released early? Well, apparently, he talked a lot. For 20 years, the D.C. United States Attorney said his cooperation had been both deep and wide. He discussed cold case murders, participated in reverse undercover drug sting operations. It ultimately all led the attorney's office to ask a judge to consider reducing the 54-year-old's life sentence.
I think it's much easier than when you're on the street.
Easier than on the street?
Much easier because you're right there with the people that have direct access to the narcotics that you need. Colombians, Cubans, Mexicans.
All thrown in together?
All thrown in together.
Thrown in with criminals like Osvaldo Trujillo Blanco, or as Edmond knew him, Chicky, a convicted drug felon.
He had a high-profile case. I had a high-profile case. So, you know, we were just wanting somebody to introduce us. We just was waiting for a person to come along and say, this Chicky, this Ray. And we just gonna go from there.
It was like sending him to grad school for drug dealers. Inside the prison, Edmond shared a cell with two men with Colombian connections. In 1996, Rayful Edmond was convicted again, this time for conducting his drug business from a prison phone. He got another 30 years for that, and sometimes afterwards he agreed to turn government witness. He became a snitch. In exchange, the government agreed to let his mother, Constance Booty Edmond, his sisters, and others out of prison.
When his former partner, drug kingpin Rayful Edmond III, became a federal informant.
Did you keep tabs at all with Rayful Edmond? Like after this, have you corresponded?
Well, we were in touch somewhat until he became an informant for the government, and that was it with that.
Still,
Rayful Edmond was a notorious drug kingpin in Washington, D.C. during the 1980s, responsible for introducing the area and significantly contributing to the city's crime rates. His criminal enterprise made millions weekly and established extensive connections with Colombian drug cartels. Edmond's criminal activities led to his arrest and conviction in 1989, resulting in a life sentence without parole for multiple charges, including engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise, conspiracy to distribute, and employing minors in drug trafficking. Despite being incarcerated, Edmond continued to conduct drug operations from within prison, using phones and mail to broker deals and maintain his influence in the drug trade. In 1996, it was revealed that Edmond had become a government informant. His cooperation was motivated partly by the desire to reduce his mother's 14-year sentence, who was also convicted for her involvement in his drug enterprise. Edmond's testimony and information led to the conviction of numerous drug dealers and helped dismantle significant portions of the drug trade in Washington, D.C. He provided crucial information on drug trafficking networks, including those connected to the Cali and Medellin cartels, and assisted in solving several murder cases. Due to his extensive cooperation with law enforcement, a federal judge reduced Edmond's life sentence to 20 years in 2019. However, he remains incarcerated because of a separate 30-year sentence for continuing to deal drugs from prison. Edmond expressed a desire to become a pastor and help rehabilitate youth involved in criminal activities if released. Rayful Edmond's story has permeated popular culture, featuring in documentaries, books, and music. He remains a controversial figure due to his significant impact on the drug epidemic and subsequent cooperation with authorities. Nathaniel "Nate Boone" Kraft was a notorious hitman for Detroit's drug gangs during the 1980s, specifically working for the infamous Best Friends gang. Known for his ruthlessness, Kraft claimed to have carried out approximately 30 contract killings, earning significant sums for his services. Kraft's involvement in the criminal underworld began at a young age. By the 1980s, he had become a key enforcer for the Best Friends gang, which was notorious for its violent tactics and deep involvement in the drug trade. Kraft was highly valued for his meticulous planning and execution of hits, which included high-profile targets such as rival drug dealers and those deemed a threat to his employers. In the early 1990s, facing the prospect of life imprisonment or even the death penalty, Kraft chose to cooperate with law enforcement. His testimony was instrumental in dismantling major drug operations in Detroit. He provided detailed accounts of the murders he committed and the drug lords who hired him, including the activities of the Best Friends gang. His cooperation led to numerous convictions, significantly impacting the drug trade in the region. After serving 17 years in prison, Kraft was released and returned to Detroit. Despite the initial threats he faced upon his release, he chose not to enter the witness protection program. Instead, he has been open about his past, participating in interviews and documentaries to share his story and advocate for criminal justice reform. Kraft has expressed regret for his past actions and has focused on living a reformed life, even welcoming a child in 2021. Kraft's life story has been featured in various media, shedding light on the violent world of Detroit's drug trade during the 1980s and his eventual transformation. His cooperation with authorities not only helped bring down significant criminal figures, but also highlighted the possibility of redemption, even for those with a deeply troubled past.
Whenever he's come to court, even the day he was convicted, Barnes has worn the same icy look, revealing no emotion whatsoever. So it was today as his attorney appealed for leniency, reminding the judge that his client had been acquitted on 3 of the charges, although he was convicted on 3 others. Barnes himself stood and claimed his innocence, maintaining that he never even spoke to the 3 people who had testified as the government's main witnesses against him. U.S. Attorney Fisk then told the judge that the proof had been convincing and overwhelming that Barnes ran the most profitable venal heroin ring in the city, and that he should receive the harshest sentence possible to show others that narcotics is not the quick and easy road to riches.
Nicky Barnes turned government informant and began to tell all he knew. And because his testimony helped put 50 other people in prison, there are those in government who say he should be pardoned.
Among the people he informed on were his former drug colleagues and his women. How did he feel testifying against them?
I was overwhelmed by guilt. I was overwhelmed by guilt. I had every reason to testify against them and no reason at all to feel guilty. But it's that street corner indoctrination, that criminal ethic, that street corner value system, it's overpowering. And I started crying on the stand.
From guilt and emotion.
And emotion. I couldn't talk.
Barnes testified about his secret 7-member drug council composed of the most successful black dealers in New York, some of whom attended this birthday party for Barnes in the middle 70s. According to Barnes, they shared an oath of brotherhood and loyalty to one another.
The oath of brotherhood was 7 words. Treat my brother as I treat myself. To treat my brother as I treat myself.
Was there a drug council?
Oh, the drug council is a myth. It's the first time I heard of council was when I was in court in 1983.
Guy Fisher, who had a brief affair with Barnes' former girlfriend, Shemeka, was a member of that 7-man drug council, according to Barnes. Fisher is now serving life without parole after Barnes testified against him.
You mean to tell me that you can give someone a life plus sentence because you say he had sex with my girlfriend?
And he's putting people behind bars, helping to make cases for the feds.
There is no justice in terms of that. Ah, man. I mean, 8 years ago, Nick was the scum of the earth in terms of court, being in the courtroom in Judge Worker's court. And then 3 years ago, he became Robin Hood because he was telling.
Leroy Nicky Barnes was a prominent drug dealer in Harlem during the 1960s and 1970s, leading a distribution network that earned him the nickname Mr. Untouchable. In 1972, Barnes formed the Council, a syndicate of major African-American drug traffickers that controlled significant portions of the heroin trade in New York City. Barnes's criminal empire thrived due to his strategic partnerships, including collaborations with the Italian Mafia. His ability to avoid conviction despite numerous arrests contributed to his untouchable reputation. However, his high-profile lifestyle and media appearances eventually drew the ire of federal authorities, including President Jimmy Carter, who ordered a crackdown on Barnes's operations. In 1977, Barnes was arrested and later sentenced to life in prison without parole for narcotics trafficking. While incarcerated, Barnes became disillusioned with his former associates, who mismanaged his empire and personal finances. Feeling betrayed, he decided to cooperate with law enforcement, becoming a government informant. His testimony led to the conviction of numerous members of the council and other associates, including his ex-wife. As a result of his cooperation, Barnes' sentence was reduced, and he was released in 1998, entering the Federal Witness Protection Program. Barnes' life and transformation from a drug lord to an informant have been widely covered in media, including the documentary Mr. Untouchable and his memoir of the same name. He was portrayed by Cuba Gooding Jr. in the 2007 film American Gangster. Leroy Nicky Barnes passed away from cancer on June 18, 2012. However, because he was in the Federal Witness Protection Program, his death was not immediately publicized under his real name. News of his death only became known in June 2019 when it was reported by his daughter. The journeys of Nathaniel Kraft, Alpo Martinez, Nicky Barnes, Frank Lucas, and Rayful Edmond III highlight the dual-edged nature of power and crime. Their decisions to cooperate with law enforcement were pivotal in dismantling major drug operations and exposing corruption within their circles. These transformations from notorious criminals to informants underscore the complexities of justice and redemption. While their legacies are marred by violence and betrayal, their stories offer powerful lessons on the consequences of the drug trade and the intricate dance between crime and law enforcement. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of infamous snitches. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful true crime.
The Bull Gravano, a notorious mafioso turned mob rat, is out of prison today. His latest conviction was for peddling here in Arizona, making a reported $500,000 per week. He also admitted to killing 19 people.
I just want to make it clear. Am I supposed to use?
Yes, you may talk directly into the microphone. Yeah. Everyone wants to hear.
I just want to make it clear, in coming down here before the committee, that it's my intention here to cooperate as much as possible. In other words, I know that the committee has a job to do, and I'm here to help them.
Now, even if I talk, I should never talk about this, and I'm doing so. That's my best way to
That is the highest oath you took.
Right.
In other words, that was the most sacred in this organization.
Right. I want
that
you
you'd never tell this.
Right. What I'm telling you, what I'm exposing to you and the press and everybody, this is my doom.
Every informer faces a death sentence from the Mafia.
Richard Kuklinski is called the Iceman because prosecutors say he stuffed one of his shooting victims in a freezer. Kuklinski appeared cool in Bergen County Court as he publicly described for the first time how he killed 2 Pennsylvania men.
I shot George Malaban 5 times. It was it was due to business.
The world of organized crime has long been governed by a strict code of silence known as omerta. However, throughout history, several high-ranking mobsters have broken this code, turning informants and providing invaluable information to law enforcement. These betrayals have not only led to significant convictions, but have also offered a rare glimpse into the inner workings of the Mafia. This video explores the stories of notable Mafia informants such as Mikey Scars DiLeonardo, Aladina Jimmy the Weasel Fratianno, Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, Richard the Iceman Kuklinski, Abe Kid Twist Reles, and Joseph Joe Cargo Valachi, highlighting their backgrounds, motivations for cooperating with authorities, and the impact of their testimonies on organized crime.
Leonardo, also known as Mikey Scars. The government says he's a high-ranking member of the Gambino crime family.
Mikey Scars DiLeonardo is a former capo in the Gambino crime family, one of New York City's 5 families. Born in 1955, DiLeonardo climbed the ranks due to his involvement in various criminal activities, becoming a trusted associate of John Gotti. His nickname, Mikey Scars, came from noticeable childhood scars on his face. In 2002, facing legal pressure and the realization of the constant threats within the Mafia, DiLeonardo decided to cooperate with federal authorities. His insider knowledge provided crucial evidence leading to the conviction of several high-profile Mafia members, including Peter Gotti, John Gotti's brother. DiLeonardo's testimony significantly disrupted the operations of the Gambino family and other organized crime groups. After testifying, DiLeonardo entered the Witness Protection Program for his safety. His cooperation marked a pivotal moment in the fight against organized crime, showcasing the impact of insider testimonies in dismantling long-standing criminal organizations.
Frank Borgia was a member of our family, and he had an argument with another member, and they both went to the boss, and the boss decided to kill Borgia. And that's the way it is, you know. Borgia might have been right, I don't know, but they called me and told me to go to San Diego with Frank, and he was going to clip Frank Borgia. So I went to San Diego, and we had somebody bring him in the house, and we choked him and buried him, and that was it. He was a member of our family.
Aladina Fratianno, alias Jimmy the Weasel, born Naples, Italy, 1913. He was chosen for membership of the Los Angeles crime family, and with 4 other candidates, he went through the traditional secret rite. 5 of us went to a winery on Western Avenue in Los Angeles, and they took me in first. They take you in one at a time, and there was like 40, 50 members of the family there.
Last Mafioso is the story of Jimmy the Weasel Fratianno and his life and times in the Cosa Nostra, the mob. In his autobiography just published, Fratianno tells of his 30 savage, brutal, treacherous years in the secret society known as the Mafia, and of his last 3 years in the Witness Protection Program as one of the most valued of government witnesses against the mob. Fratianno was accepted for Mafia membership back in the 40s, he says, after he showed that he could bust heads with the best of them. He graduated to robbery and extortion, to pornography and loan sharking, and, of course, to murder.
Jimmy, who was the first person you killed?
Frankie Nicoli.
Where'd you kill him?
In my house.
How'd you kill him?
We strangled him.
In your own living room?
Right.
And then he dirtied your living room?
A little blood.
Yeah, a little blood and a little, discharge.
Right. How'd you know that?
Urine. Urine.
A little urine, yeah.
You smile when you think back about it.
Well, what are you going to do?
After you shoved a gun up against Tony Brancato's head, you were apparently proud of yourself because you said, most guys just ain't got the stomach for it. They're squeamish. I can't figure them out.
Aladino Fratianno, 67 years old, husband, father, retired trucking executive, the son of hard-working immigrant parents. A Cleveland boy who grew up to become Jimmy the Weasel, mobster, murderer, mafioso, and admitted enforcer for La Cosa Nostra. Listen.
And I'm going to tell you one thing that I don't give up. Moses, coppers or no coppers, I'll blow your mother head off. I'm going to tell you right now, you ain't with no kids.
A tough-talking guy, but he does his talking now in the Federal Witness Protection Program, testifying against his La Cosa Nostra family. So far, 20 convictions.
Aladina Jimmy the Weasel Fratianno was a high-ranking member of the Los Angeles crime family and one of the most significant informants in Mafia history. Born in 1913, Fratianno's criminal activities included murder, extortion, and racketeering, earning him a reputation for ruthlessness and cunning. In 1977, facing life imprisonment and internal Mafia threats, he decided to cooperate with federal authorities. Fratianno's insider knowledge led to the indictment and conviction of numerous mobsters, exposing the Mafia's infiltration into legitimate businesses and unions. His testimony provided law enforcement with crucial insights into the Mafia's national operations, significantly disrupting their activities. After testifying, Fratianno entered the Witness Protection Program and later authored a memoir, The Last Mafioso, detailing his life in the Mafia and his cooperation with authorities.
Are you a member of any secret organization? Yes, I am.
What is the name of it?
Cosa Nostra.
In this 14 months period of undeclared war and what you term declared war, do you know how many people were killed altogether during that time on either side or both sides?
Senator, I got the score. The score was we lost 1, and they lost from 40 to 60.
Find him, what did you mean by that?
I get them. They can't find him means they can't find him to shoot him. So I said, I'll find him.
What does that mean in your terms? Does that mean that you were agreeing yourself to kill him?
Oh, yes, Senator.
Joseph Joe Cargo Valachi was a member of the Genovese crime family who became one of the most significant informants in Mafia history. Born on September 22, 1903, Valachi was involved in various criminal activities, including drug trafficking, extortion, and murder. In 1963, while serving a 15-year sentence for narcotics charges and fearing for his life due to a perceived threat from crime boss Vito Genovese, Valachi decided to cooperate with federal authorities. Valachi's testimony before the U.S. Senate committee in the Valachi hearings provided a detailed account of the Mafia's structure, operations, and rituals, including the introduction of the term Cosa Nostra to the public. Although his testimony did not lead to immediate convictions, it significantly raised public awareness and gave law enforcement valuable insights into organized crime, leading to more effective future prosecutions. Valachi spent the rest of his life in prison, dying of natural causes on April 3, 1971. His cooperation marked a turning point in the fight against organized crime by breaking the Mafia's code of silence and exposing its inner workings.
Reles. Abe Reles, Kid Twist, the scourge of Brownsville, reputed to be the leader of a band of Brooklyn hoodlums who have allegedly put murder on a business basis. Tonight, the committee will probe into the charge that Reles and his gang are closely tied to the leaders of the National Crime Syndicate, that they are, in fact, the execution branch of a fantastic underworld kill-for-hire organization known as Murder Incorporated.
I just want to make it clear, in coming down here before the committee, that it's my intention here to cooperate as much as possible. In other words, I know that the committee has a job to do, and I'm here to help them. Because I think that I could help myself. In other words, there's a lot of confusion surrounding my name. And I think if I can clear that up, I help the committee, I help myself.
Have you finished your statement?
There's only one other point that I wanted to make, and that is, as long as we could keep this whole thing on a high level, I think we'll be able to have a productive session.
Abe Kid Twist Reles was a notorious hitman for Murder, Inc., the enforcement arm of the National Crime Syndicate in the 1930s and 1940s. Born in 1906 in Brooklyn, New York, Reles earned his nickname for his ability to escape difficult situations and his ruthless efficiency in carrying out murders. He worked closely with other infamous mobsters, including Louis Lepke Buchalter and Albert Anastasia. In 1940, facing the death penalty for multiple charges, Reles chose to cooperate with law enforcement. His detailed testimony led to the conviction and execution of many high-profile mobsters, including Louis Lepke Buchalter. His cooperation provided invaluable insights into the workings of Murder, Inc. and the broader Mafia network, significantly disrupting their operations. Reles' cooperation ended mysteriously when he fell to his death from a window at the Half Moon Hotel in Coney Island in 1941, where he was under police protection. The circumstances of his death remain controversial, with many believing he was murdered to prevent further testimony. Reles' decision to inform and his subsequent death left a significant impact on the history of organized crime in America, providing a rare glimpse into the brutal operations of Murder, Inc.
Richard Kuklinski is called the Iceman because prosecutors say he stuffed one of his shooting victims in a freezer. Kuklinski appeared cool in Bergen County Court as he publicly described for the first time how he killed two Pennsylvania men.
I shot George Malvin 5 times. It was it was due to business. Louis Masgay on July 1st, 1981. I shot him once in the back of the head.
Kuklinski's motive was robbery. In exchange for the guilty pleas, prosecutors dropped 22 charges against the former Dumont resident, among them the 1981 murder of a Cliffside Park pharmacist, whose body has not been found.
Well, let me tell you something about the Iceman. And he killed a couple of people for bullshit money. Borrow $1,500 off of this guy. You can't play him. He calls him up. Come in, I'll see you tonight. And he kills him.
Richard the Iceman Kuklinski was an American contract killer, notorious for his brutal methods and involvement with organized crime from the late 1940s until his arrest in 1986. Born in 1935, Kuklinski earned the nickname the Iceman because he would freeze his victims to obscure their time of death. He claimed to have killed over 200 people, though this number is debated. Kuklinski worked with various crime families, including the De Cavalcanti and Gambino families, using a range of methods from shooting and stabbing to cyanide poisoning. Kuklinski was arrested in December 1986 after a lengthy investigation, including an undercover operation by a federal agent. He was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to life imprisonment. While he did not traditionally snitch on the Mafia, his detailed confessions during interviews provided law enforcement with valuable insights into organized crime. His interviews, particularly those conducted by HBO, revealed his personality and the extent of his crimes, contributing to public and law enforcement understanding of the criminal underworld.
I was a good, loyal soldier. John barked and I bit. The words belong to Sammy Bull Gravano. The John, he says, is John Gotti. The barking and biting have to do with murder. Sammy says he killed on behalf of Gotti. The defense says he killed on behalf of Sammy. Which one is the jury to believe? Gravano admitted today he expects to be testifying for the government in various cases for a couple of years. And after 5 days of cross-examination in this case, Gotti's lawyers do not seem to have turned...
Or Sammy the Bull Gravano, a notorious mafioso turned mob rat, is out of prison today. His latest conviction was for peddling here in Arizona, making a reported $500,000 per week. He also admitted to killing 19 people.
Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano is a former underboss of the Gambino crime family, one of New York City's most powerful mafia organizations. Born in 1945, Gravano rose through the ranks due to his involvement in murder, extortion, and racketeering. By the late 1980s, he became the underboss under John Gotti, playing a key role in Gotti's rise to power, including the assassination of former boss Paul Castellano in 1985. In 1991, facing multiple charges and potential life imprisonment, Gravano decided to cooperate with federal authorities, driven by legal pressure and disillusionment with Gotti. His testimony was crucial in securing convictions against John Gotti and numerous other high-ranking mafia members, leading to over 39 convictions and significantly disrupting the Gambino family's operations. After testifying, Gravano entered and later left the witness protection program, eventually authoring a memoir titled Underboss. Despite his cooperation, he continued to face legal issues, including a prison sentence for running an ring in the early 2000s. The testimonies of these mafia informants have had profound impacts on the fight against organized crime. By breaking the code of omerta, they provided law enforcement with critical insights into the operations, hierarchies, and criminal activities of the mafia. These informants not only facilitated the convictions of numerous high-profile mobsters, but also disrupted the mafia's operations and weakened its influence. Their stories illustrate the significant risks and consequences of turning informant, but they also underscore the pivotal role that insider information plays in dismantling criminal organizations. Through their cooperation, these informants have left a lasting legacy on the history of organized crime and law enforcement's ongoing efforts to combat it.